Welcome to week 11 of Bible Studies for Life, continuing in Matthew chapter 24. Today we're looking at kind of one of the questions, I guess, that always comes up. Well, when? When's it going to happen? How do we know when it's going to happen? All right, so we're going to look at that. Before we dive into Matthew 24, be sure and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Like, comment, share it with others. That helps the algorithm, as I'm told. If you've got questions, put them in the comment. We'll see if we can't answer them for you. All right, let's look at Matthew 24. He says, "Learn this lesson from the fig tree. As soon as its branch becomes tender and sprouts leaves, you know that summer is near. In the same way, when you see all these things, recognize that he is near, at the door. Truly, I tell you, this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away." Okay, so the first thing that Jesus is talking about is he's anticipating the question of when, is to say, look, learn the lesson, right? You see the signs, you know when spring is coming, you know when summer's coming, you can see what's happening in the leaves and the trees. We're in the spring right now, and we're seeing leaves come out on the trees and flowers and things like that. We know what season it is, right? You don't have to have a calendar. You can just tell. Look at nature. You see what's going on, right? So you see the signs, right? You anticipate this. So in the same way, he says, when you see these things, that's all the stuff he's been talking about in chapter 24 to this point. When you see these things, you recognize that he is near. He's at the door, that it could happen at any time. And then he says this sentence that blows our mind a little bit, I think, right? "Truly, I tell you, this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things take place." What does that mean? This generation will not pass away. I mean, it seems like he's saying that to these disciples who are young, they're in their 20s, most likely, it seems like, most of them, right? You're not going to die. This generation is not going to die before you see these things having happened. All of these things that he's listed, right? You're going to see these things happen. And I think we have to be honest and recognize that certainly that would be the case. And if we think about the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem being in AD 70, we see that these things happened within their lifetime. Most of them, it was within their lifetime when this happened, right? And so these events have happened, and in essence to say that his return has been imminent since then. And another thing, if you read Paul's letters, read what he says in 1 Thessalonians, read how he describes the return. And in other places, you see that Paul has a sense that the return of Christ is imminent, that it could happen at any time. They believe that Jesus would come back during their lifetimes. That's how they saw it. And to say, well, they didn't know everything. Well, that's I think to have a little hubris about our own knowledge and our own understanding, right? We can look back and see, okay, clearly he didn't come back then, so clearly there was something else that the Lord was saying. But there is the sense, though, that he's saying, he could return at any time, and they certainly believe that to be true, right? That these things this generation wouldn't pass until all these things take place, which means all these things take place, that he is near, he's at the door. Could happen. They believe that in the first century as much as we believe it today. I mean, it's not, maybe it's a little semantics, but we say the return of Christ is nearer now than it's ever been. Well, that's true. Obviously, we're closer to his return now than we ever have been, and that will be true every day until he comes back. But at the same time, they had that belief that the return of Christ was possible. He could come back then. That was certainly possible, right? Heaven and earth pass away. He says, my words will never pass away. The truth of the words that Jesus speaks, that God speaks, they're not going to pass away. His words are always going to be there. They're going to last. They are eternal. And then this statement, okay, so when? So when, Jesus? Now concerning that day and hour, okay, this is specific, right? Which day and which hour? Tuesday. Well, at what time? Okay, the day and hour. No one knows. You see this? Do not rest lightly on this. Do not let this pass by you, okay? On that day and hour, no one knows. No one knows. Nobody can have any idea. Nobody knows when it's going to happen. If somebody tells you they know, they're lying. They're wrong. Nobody knows. Jesus says nobody knows. Nobody. Nobody knows. neither the angels of heaven nor the Son. Jesus says, I don't know. The angels in heaven don't know. The Son doesn't know, except the Father alone, God the Father. Now, okay, you've got Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. You've got a Trinity. They are three in one. They are all God. There's only one God. So we have this three persons of the Trinity, and yet there are some differences between them and some things, distinctions in how they function, maybe how they relate to us and their roles. And clearly one of those things is that the Son follows the will of the Father, and the Father has a knowledge of this and the Son does not. Look, if Jesus doesn't know, what makes you think you know, or I know, or some other theologian somewhere is going to know? Nobody knows. But what do we do with that? What do we do with this idea that nobody knows when he's going to come back? How does that affect our life, our ongoing daily living, to live in expectation and anticipation of his return and yet not have any idea when it will happen? As the days of Noah were, so the coming of the Son of Man will be. What does that mean? His return will be like it was in the days of Noah. What does that mean? For in those days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day Noah boarded the ark. They didn't know until the flood came and swept them all away. This is the way the coming of the Son of Man will be. People are living their lives. They're going about. They're eating, drinking, marrying. They're having a good time. They're enjoying life until Noah gets in the ark and the flood shows up. And then suddenly, we should have been ready, right? We should have been ready for this. We should have made some different decisions. That's how it will be. He says the people are going to be living their lives, going about their lives, thinking that everything's okay, and then the Son of Man returns. Now, how does that comport with the idea of the wars and all the horror and all those things happening? I don't know. I can't answer that. You know, it appears that there's going to be great destruction worldwide, and yet it also appears that people will just be living their lives. And I think this is to say, in essence, that people are not going to be expecting. They're not anticipating. Most people are not anticipating. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't. It doesn't mean that I shouldn't. But it means most people won't be. Then 2 men will be in the field, and one will be taken and one left. 2 women will be grinding grain with a handmill. One will be taken and one left. This great picture of the rapture. I think that's normally how we think of this verse, is this rapture verse. All right? Is the sense of people going about their life. And then Jesus comes. The end is there. Boom. Just like that. And they should have known. They should have been anticipating. They should have been ready, but some weren't. Some were. You need to be a part of the group that is ready. Because you don't know when. We can look at the signs and see the signs, and we can see those things and say, hey, you need to get ready. Jesus is going to come back, and the things have been fulfilled that need to be fulfilled, and you need to be alert, and you need to be prepared. And I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. Jesus is going to return, and if you're not ready when he returns, it's too late. You're not going to get a 2-minute warning. There's not going to be some big flashing sign that says 2 minutes till Jesus comes back. You need to be ready. You need to get ready and be ready. Always be watching and waiting, eagerly anticipating his imminent return, because he can come back at any time, and we must be ready. You must be ready for his return, because you don't know when it's going to happen. And thanks for watching this week. Appreciate that. I appreciate you tuning in every week. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Please like and comment on it. Share it with others. If you got questions and things that come up and you're wondering about, put them in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them. All right. Look forward to the next week. We finish out chapter 24, and then the next week we go into chapter 25. The quarter's coming to an end. Looking forward to it. We'll see you next time.